What's going on, everybody? We are back live, brand new episode once again of Liam Picks Fights presents. We're talking about UFC Long Island, UFC on ABC3, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega. It's a heck of a main event, 145 pounds, one of the most elite divisions that is going in the UFC. And we're going to get to see number 2 versus number 3 play out before our eyes on Saturday night. And they've got a great accompanying cast as well. The same can be said for this show today. We've got 2 great guests for you and one more if he wakes up to his wake-up call. But either way, guys, we've got a great show planned. Just want to let you guys know off the top, this show, all the content that I produce is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the easiest game in DFS. If you guys are interested in getting started, you use my promo code Liam. They will deposit match you 100% up to $100. And if you're interested in what my Prize Picks looks are for this card, I did a video. It's under 10 minutes, so it's very quick and right to the point on my Prize Picks looks that I bet my own money on this weekend for UFC Long Island. So if you want to check that out, go to Pub Sports Radio and check out the video that I did over there. With that being said, though, guys, we got a great card to break down. We've got a lot of people that are loyal listeners of the show rocking with us live in the chat, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you for being here, and thank you to my 2 great guests. Let's introduce them now. Lou Betcha, the MMA engine himself, back once again to bless us with his presence, the Yam Bag Special. Lou, how you doing, my brother?
All I know is when I look at chat and I see like the last 7 comments are like, can somebody explain what yam bags are? I know it's going to be a good show.
Yes.
I do have one picked out for the show, but I'm 50-50. I still might be at the show live. I got my ticket. I'm just hoping everything kind of aligns and I should be there live. It's going to be my first ever show, believe it or not. So super excited to go return to my home, 10 minutes from my hometown to go see this show. I'm super excited. And I'm excited to break it down with you and my man Wiz. And maybe Gordo. Man. And maybe Gordo if we wake him up.
Exactly. Somebody get Gordo on the line. Somebody in the Great White North, get this man on the phone. But we also have the great and powerful Wiz Betts joining the show, the king of the NRFI, our returning champion, back once again to do the damn thing. Wiz, how you doing, my brother? How you feeling?
Feeling great. Feeling amped. I'm ready to break down these fights. And, hey, thanks again to the chat. I love the activity. Let's go. You guys are the best.
I love it. I love it, man. We got to get it started off right. We got a heck of a card to break down from top to bottom. So without further ado, we can start with the first fight of the night. And, you know, this is an interesting fight to me because a lot of times I'm not compelled to bet on a fight like this unless I'm really tempted to play the underdog. And I'm going to just disclose off the top. I'm a little bit more interested in the favorite in this fight, Emily Ducati. She's taking on Jessica Penne. And this is actually the biggest age gap, I believe, on the card. There's going to be a gap of about 11 years between these women. And I think that that's a big problem for Jessica Penne, potentially. I think that the chances that she falls off a cliff, per se, in her fighting career is always looming at this stage. And I think that we kind of saw the signs of that physically in the Lupe Godinez fight. She got picked up. She got thrown around. She was able to grease out a decision there, but really very thin margins at the end of the day. And I think that that was more a sign of Lupe being a little bit green, being a little bit, inexperienced and not having the full aggression that she needed to really put a stamp on that fight. You know, she got a little bit tied up in those grappling situations. I think Emily Ducati, on the other hand, she has a wrestling background. She's had a lot of seasoning in Bellator and Invicta. I think that seasoning will do her well, making this kind of debut now. She was submitted via armbar in the 5th round of a championship fight, so I think that that's important to take in mind. She's had a lot of high-level experience, and I think that her recent fights have shown she's getting more aggressive. She's getting better with her timing, with her shot selection. I think her boxing is a problem for a lot of people in these women's divisions, and I think she has real power. People talk about the head kick knockout, but what really impressed me is the fact that she knocked a girl like basically out on the feet with a right hand. That's rare in women's MMA. So that kind of power mixed with that kind of aggression, she throws a head kick and sends her to oblivion. It's like she's not here to make friends. She's not here to be nice. So I think that Emily Ducati, there's a reason she's kind of been taking that slow steam, that slow action over the course of the week. I did get involved in an earlier number. Am I thrilled to go lay a -150, -160? You know, as the number continues to go up, my interest would get smaller and smaller, obviously. But I feel like there's a decent chance that this fight does end inside the distance. A lot of people have been talking about the totals and about how it might go over. I think that both of these women have a path to a finish. You know, we see that the losses, the submissions have been arm bars. We know that Jessica Penne is obviously capable of that. But I do question whether she's going to be able to pull that off at this level against another girl who just got promoted to black belt, who's been on the wrestling and grappling mats for quite some time now, a large portion of her life, who's smaller, who's got a lower center of gravity, smaller limbs, going to be a little bit harder to grab onto. I think Ducote has a good chance to do damage, maybe bust up the face, the surgically repaired nose of Jessica Penne. And Penne did, you know, basically like a PED suspension for the large bulk of her prime. I think that now she's kind of going out there for fun and for experiences. I don't know that she's necessarily on a title path, whereas Emily Ducote's kind of being brought in as a finished product. She got a lot of seasoning outside the organization, and I think they'd like her to hit the ground running. So I think Emily Ducote's my side in this fight. Lou, how do you feel, brother?
Yeah, so 4 underdogs in a row have led off the cards that wins, but that's an anomaly. I see people talking about that trend. I'm on 2 plays here. I'm on the Ducote KO prop at +450, and I like Fight Doesn't Go at +130. Shout out to Uncle Weezy. I don't know if you guys have seen Probability that he does on our channel, but it's a lot of stuff. It's comparing a lot of like what we're getting equity wise with the odds versus the weight division historical stats, the fighter historical stats. We're getting a 12% edge here on the Fight Doesn't Go versus both of their styles and winning conditions. I feel like just a simple thing to add to you on the Ducote side is this. People say that Ducote does not have really good wrestling or grappling. I think it's improving. I think there's a smaller gap in the wrestling here than there is with the striking because Penne is just here to get hit. Like, it kills me to bet against somebody as an Italian. I don't like betting against anybody whose last name is Pasta. Like, I kind of hate that, but I just think her striking defense, I think, is 38%. It's abysmal. And I just think Ducote is going to chip away until she lands that power shot. And, but I'm backing it up with I got to be careful about the armbar from guard. If Penne gets the wrestling going, if she's getting top control, I think a sub's live on her end. But I'm on the Ducote side. They're going to end this streak of underdogs starting off cards. And I look forward to seeing what her ceiling is in the UFC.
I agree with you. And to your point, you know, she has right now a -35 differential, significant strike differential per fight over the course of her UFC career. Wiz, how do you feel about this matchup, and do you have any plays on this fight?
Yeah, so I feel very similar to you guys. I agree with the points you guys have made. I think this is the first fight that breaks that little streak of underdogs. And I like the Ducote side. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I just feel like Penne, I'm sorry to say this, Clint, but I see you in the chat, and Penne is kind of like a Sam Hughes. She likes to get hit. And Ducote has some real power, as we've seen throughout her fights, especially in the last one. Nasty ground and pound with the elbows. And you know what? I do think the line is a little bit wide right now. It's nothing crazy though. So I'm just waiting a little bit more. My official pick is Ducote, actually by decision. I think she's gonna, as we've seen most of these prospects enter the UFC, they take their time. They take some time to settle in, and they probably start off a little slow. And I could see Penne winning the first round possibly, but after that, I think she's just gonna get steamrolled, and Ducote is gonna win a decision.
I could definitely see it going that way as well. So my, my first look was on the side, and then I also was half interested in that total as something of a hedge play, and also, it could be that stackable wager if she runs through her in the way that I think is possible. Then the under could be live there as well. But with that being said, guys, we can move along to the next fight here. We got a 185-pound, bout for Dwight Grant. He's moving up from the 170-pound division. He's taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. Looking for that first UFC win here is Dustin Stoltzfus. But he was dangerously close against my boy GM3. And that was pretty impressive to me. You know, I think the GM3 is just simply a better fighter than he gets credit for. Although I remember breaking down that fight in advance, and a lot of people told me they were on Stoltzfus there. And I said, you know, I think that he's going to win every minute of the fight, or could win every minute of the fight, but I think he's going to lose in round 3 at a pretty good clip. And it's just because GM3 slowly builds. He'll make you work in every position. He'll make you think you're getting an advantage for a second so he can, extend the grappling situations. And I think that all of that played to his favor because he's a very high-level black belt. He's very dangerous in those positions. But I think that in this case, I don't know. Like I feel like my guy can potentially get on top here. Dwight Grant coming up to a new weight class. We're going to have to see how his takedown defense translates at 85 compared to 170. And I think that Dustin Stoltzfus is live to get takedowns in this spot. I've heard people say they don't think he could get knocked out because he hasn't been knocked out in pro MMA. But I watched his first kickboxing match. He got knocked out pretty bad in that one. So I think that, for all intents and purposes, Dwight Grant is a big hitter. He does swing with a lot of power. He throws big arcing hooks. He throws them to the body. He'll throw them upstairs as well. And he can also connect with straight punches. So I think that, those are the ways he could win this fight. I think that there's a reason that this price is in the 1.5 region as opposed to the 2.5 for a lot of fights in terms of the totals market. And it's because both these guys have a path to a finish as well. Because if Dwight Grant is suspect in the takedown department, then Dustin Stoltzfus could potentially get a submission going. He was having some success grappling with a high-level black belt like GM3, like we mentioned. And also he prevented takedowns from Rodolfo Vieira for a while until, the jabs were adding up a little bit in that fight. And I think that people kind of underrated that performance. They say like, oh, well, Rodolfo Vieira just jabbed him up. It's like, yeah, Rodolfo Vieira just jabbed up Chris Curtis for good portions of that fight as well. But Chris Curtis is a better striker and he's more clever. So he added layers behind it and he threw to the body. But I think that this is going to be a competitive fight. I would be more interested in the dog shot here. But as the line creeps down and down, it gets less and less appealing to me. It's not one of the reads I'm more confident in on the card. But just I don't think either one of these guys is really big favorite worthy, 60%. I feel like this is a big unknowns fight. And the more unknowns you have, the closer it should be to 50-50. And on top of that, I think Stoltzfus just has some, compelling upside here. Like if he's better at grappling, like he could look like a hindsight big favorite. Whereas I think either one of these guys could get knocked out on the feet. We just saw Dwight Grant get knocked out by Sergey Handosco, not a guy known particularly for his power. So with that being said, I'm going to kick in my man Lou and ask what you think about this matchup, my brother.
Well, I'm not betting this fight ever. There's no way I'm betting it. I can't bet a guy who's 0-3 in the UFC, and I can't bet a guy named Dwight Grant. So right there, I don't like this bet. If you have to bet it, what's Dwight Grant the king of? Split decisions. So fight to end in a split plus 600 if you just want a fun prop for this fight. I have nothing more to add than the way you broke down the fight, Liam. There's too many unknowns of Grant moving up. And I typically worry about people coming off a knockout within a 6-month span, for the brain trauma. But Stoltzfus is not going to threaten him with a knockout here. So, and could Stoltzfus have success? Yeah, Grant's taking.
I don't know, man. He had a couple of knockouts regionally where I was like, whoa, like his timing is not bad. So he sees when people are out of position, like Dwight Grant sometimes gets, and he snipes them with the right hand. I was actually impressed by some of the regional footage against a bad fight.
But that's not the path that's not the clearest path here. I mean, I would.
Yeah, it's like 10-1. It's like 10-1 subs, like 4-1.
Right. So could he have success on the ground? Yeah. Is it possible he could have success on the ground and not really do anything with it? Sure. And Grant throws 3 punches a round. And he might land all 3, but his volume is so low that he's hard to count on. So this is a complete pass for me. Small lean to the dog shot, I guess, in a fight that I think is another striker versus grappler. Like you're saying, the grappler has a little more striking upside, but I want nothing to do with this one. I mean, if I just feel like being a degenerate, I'll take a poke on the split decision. This is not the Yambag shot, like somebody in chat said. That is coming up very shortly.
I'm not going to lie. I had my strong suspicion that this was going to be the Yambag shot when we first were coming on the air. What do you think about this fight, my man? Number one, do you think there's a Yambag? But number two, how do you feel about the matchup? Do you think there's any bets worth having?
Hey, I definitely feel like there could be a Yambag or two in this fight. Like someone in the chat just said, David Killebrew said Grant has 2 left feet, and I completely agree. What I think about the fight, though, I think even though a lot of people are talking down how Dwight Grant's coming up a weight class and they think he's going to be small, he's actually the bigger fighter, A, in reach by an inch, and then B, in height by an inch as well. So it's not like that big of a difference in size. Maybe they're talking about just like body frame in general. But yeah, I'm staying away from this fight completely. I share similar feelings to where there's a lot of unknowns. Dwight Grant's very low volume, but the thing is with Dwight Grant, when he throws, it's with intent every single time. So he gasses himself out a little bit by throwing those big overhands and those big straight punches. But it's just, why would you want to bet on someone that you're just relying on his KO? I don't know if he's going to win a decision here. So if you do want to bet on Dwight Grant, just bet the KO line. And then on the other hand, Stoltzfus, three loss in a row, 3-loss streak. Can't really trust him on the feet too much. If he takes it to the ground, he'll find success, I think. So yeah, this fight couldn't scream any louder at me saying, don't bet me, don't bet me. But it's like, yeah, no, I can't. There's no way.
I just think that as far as I'm concerned, man, Dustin Stoltzfus, if you go back and look, like the guy has taken fights at 205, right? Like he has literally, like his loss, even in kickboxing, is a match at 209 pounds. For me, that's like, all right, justifiable, you know, a little bit tough for him to get going. It's not like he was like soft in that fight either. He got hit really hard, went down and got back up and came back and then just got brutally knocked out by the guy who was much bigger than him. So I think that all that tells me that Stoltzfus is the guy who's been, you know, taking on these big guys, and it hasn't meant much to him. You know, he picked up that guy on Contender Series who was bigger than him and broke his arm too. So I just feel like this guy can actually wrestle a little bit, and if he does that enough to Dwight Grant, I think he could tire him out as well. He's the older fighter, so I'm looking for Stoltzfus to get the win here. But I also think that it's, you know, it's not a fight that I have tremendous conviction in, and anybody who does, God bless him for it. Either way, we can move on to the next fight here, the talk of the town. I had sent this one to my man Wiz quite some time ago, and you know, people's opinions are going to differ on this fight. I'll save my opinion to the end, but first we'll kick it to my man Lou Betcha to talk about Da-Un Jung taking on Dustin Jacoby. It's a great fight. 2 talented guys, 2 guys who are streaking here in the light heavyweight division right now. So I think that it's a great fight. Highly regarded matchup. Lou, what do you think?
This is the like the Twitter war this week. I mean, I know Gombis is like talking to me. He's like, ask your boy Cody if there's any problem with Jacoby like right now. Apparently there's no problem. I can confirm this. There is no problem. My unnamed source in Factory X tells me there is no problem with Dustin Jacoby. So let's get the fun bet out of the way. This is your Yam Bag special right here. I think that I know people are expecting like Jung to come out and grapple. Other than that night fight, he hasn't shown that he wants to, but it's certainly in his back pocket if it's not going well on the feet. So the cage grabs in effect. Jacoby's a kickboxer. The ball shot's in effect. Jung there's a couple of fouls on his tape because he has his fingers out of his gloves. The eye poke's in effect. It's like the holy trinity of things I want to bet a Yam Bag special here. So I'm betting the Yam Bag special. But unlike what I imagine I'm going to hear from this panel, I am on the Jacoby side. I will say straight up, I'm biased. I'm Factory X fanboy, so I'm biased here. But to me, it comes down to something simple. Jacoby's the minute winner. Jung has more power. He's the moment winner. But Jacoby's volume is pretty good. His cardio holds up really well. I could see him taking over late. Not that I think Jung has a cardio issue, but Jacoby can maintain his pace, and he doesn't look like anything special in his fights, but the volume just picks up, and he just keeps winning in the UFC. So I'm going with Jacoby. I don't know if I'm getting to the window on this one either. I hate starting out with like a bunch of non-bets, but I don't know that I'm going to get to the window on this. But at what price does it become a numbers play? I mean, I don't know that the price is good enough yet to feel great about it, but if he somehow climbs to plus 130, if something goes on at the weigh-ins that shifts it, maybe I'll get involved. But for now, it's a layoff, but I lean Jacoby.
I understand where you're coming from. And to be straight up, I know that you were on Cody Brundage, and I got out of my skis on Tresean Gore, made to look a fool. So
we're not going to tell
up.
anybody. Don't tell anybody that the messages that I sent like 10 minutes after that, because
hey, you got to go all in with your guys. That's it. Loyalty is plus EV. I've always said that.
It's my guy.
I think that's a great analysis right there. And I could easily see it playing out that way. You know, this is a light heavyweight fight. This is a higher variance type of spot. One of the divisions I've had more success over the years betting on is light heavyweight. For whatever reason, I think that sometimes people, overestimate confidence levels in these fights. And so anytime you can snipe plus money, like you're saying, it can become a value play in the light heavyweight division. Think about Jan Blachowicz, who I played live, and I didn't even get to him pre-fight, but I just said I'm going to stay off rackets here. Anything can go wrong at any time. It's like these guys are huge. They do one thing wrong, everything goes awry. So I think for those reasons, variance is a little bit higher in this division, broadly speaking. Wiz, how do you feel about this matchup? And did you get to any plays?
Yes, so I'm actually on the Jung money line at plus 120. So my reasoning behind this is, I don't like that age gap. That's for one, especially in this division. The heavier you get, the age gap just hits you that much harder, in my opinion. You just feel a lot slower, a lot more sluggish. And this isn't heavyweight where they don't really have to cut weight. Still kind of have to cut weight here. I was on Jacoby in his last fight, and I know there were talks about him being injured, not throwing any kicks and stuff like that. And I agree. He literally threw like one kick, and I was very pissed. He still won the fight, thankfully, but I saw some regression in his striking there. Now, could that be because his legs limited his movement? Sure. But I just think he's climbing up in age. Who knows if that injury has healed up 100%. And I kind of like Dang Jung's power here. One of the main factors for me when I'm betting on light heavyweight is power and speed. I think Dang Jung has some pretty decent power, and I think he has some pretty decent speed here that he could counter Jacoby with. And Jacoby leaves a lot of openings in his striking from what I've seen on the tape. So I'm just not too impressed with that. And then to pair all of that, we also have grappling upside. Now, is he going to look like he's Khabib Nurmagomedov? I don't think so. But he might land a couple of those like little trip takedowns if he's able to. And that could possibly save him a round or two, or maybe even win him all three. Who knows? So maybe it could be a 30-27, or it could be a greasy 29-28. But yeah, ultimately, I'm siding with Dang Jung here on the money line side. I have 2 units at plus 120.
Now, when I said that I had some correspondence with Wiz, I had said to him when this matchup was first announced a long time ago, and it's just because of my fandom more than anything else, Dang Jung Bigley. And it was an aggressive take, right? I didn't end up going like a maximum play or something, but I did think that I was a little surprised how aggressive the line moved, because this actually opened a pick 'em. And I think that's the thing that people have missed about this. They talked about the line movement. It's like the line, first of all, went back to where it was, and then it pushed further. You know, it went past resistance. So I think that that's interesting, just in terms of the market around it. But, you know, bookmakers basically dropped this with I don't know. And I think that that's because you got two guys who are on streaks. They're not really sure where the public's going to come in. And to be honest with you, I can't get a great read for where the public's going to come in, right? Because the truth is, I looked at the Tapology, predictions. It's like 49-51. I ask around. Half my friends that are sharp guys are on the Jung side. Half my friends that are sharp guys are on Jacoby. So I think we're getting an honest split here. But when plus money opens up on a pick'em type of fight, I'm more interested in the plus money always. But in addition, for some of the matchup-based reasons, I had been interested in the Jung side when I first saw the matchup announced. And the reasons being is as follows. I think, number one, the guy has underrated power. I think dropping Sam Alvey, to me, is a big deal. That was like one of the first guys to actually drop Sam Alvey like that. I know it became a more common occurrence from then on, but at the time, like, people forget that the Ryan Spann fight is like, we're like a card away from Sam Alvey, like, being on a run. Like, he had dropped him. He had hurt him. I think that people forget what Sam Alvey is. He's tricky. He's a lead hand guy. He fights awkwardly, and he's only looking to counter. So I felt like he didn't really give, a very he gave a fight that it's hard to look good in, right? That's what a Sam Alvey fight is historically. It's a fight that's just hard to look good in. He'll grind you down a little bit. I think that in this fight, we're going to see two guys that like to exchange. Jacoby, he'll never be accused of not wanting to get in a fight. The guy just goes out there. He's got a pretty good guard. He's got pretty good reactive movement. So he likes to rely on that and stand in the pocket with people. And he'll throw kicks. He'll feint. I think that a lot of that could draw some pauses from Jung early. Could be a problem for him early. But I think as he starts to get a beat on that and a read on it a little bit, I'm just worried about Jacoby's ability to take some of these power shots, because Kennedy Nzechukwu, guy that I think we all rate from a durability standpoint, literally Olberg goes out there and one punch is defined, cost me some money. But like outside of that, he was taking all these shots from Olberg, making it look easy. Then he gets hit with a couple elbows through the guard and he's like ready to call it out. And I think that on top of that, Khadisi Bragimov, I know, he's not that good. I know he went like 0-4 in the UFC. Look at what he's done since. This guy hasn't fallen off the face of the earth. He's still out there winning fights, and I'm pretty sure this is the only guy that submitted him off the top of my head. So just like the fact that he's able to get a third-round submission in a light heavyweight fight, that's intriguing to me. Not a lot of guys doing that. The fact that he can also go out there and score a knockout, that's interesting to me. Plus, we can see that he can win a decision. Like when you think about a fighter that you want to rely on, you want them to make it as easy as possible, right? He goes out there and he's fighting William Knight, and he realizes if I go to a over and an under and I step behind him, I can live on the ground with this guy. I can take him down anytime I want. So he just did it every time. But what else do you want from a guy? It's like he's like, hey, I'll just deliver you the bag. Like every time, free bag. Like, so I'm not saying he could do that to Jacoby, but I'm saying I like his fight IQ that if he thinks he needs to go out there and bop you, he's going to go out there and try and bop you. If he thinks he needs to go out there and get that submission late, he's going to go and fight for that submission late. If he thinks that he needs to get a decision and take you down and win the minutes, he's going to do that too. So I like his fight IQ overall. I think he's a prospect on the rise. I think the UFC is trying to position him towards that rise, but I also think they're giving him a test here. They're giving him a guy who's got these wins, who's got a lot of credibility built up in the division. And so whoever's able to get a win in this fight, they're positioning themselves for a big run into the top 15. So shout out to the library, man. Says under 2.5 for the entire bookstore. Shout out. And I do think both of these guys are live for a finish, right? We've got two guys who are going to go out there and strike, two guys that are willing to get into a bit of a brawl. And Sam Alvey landed some clean shots on Jung. He was able to take those. He fought at heavyweight a little bit as well. So I think maybe he's able to stand up to those shots, but it's going to be a heck of a damn fight. And I think that one man may fall. So under 2.5, not a bad look at all for this fight. And we've seen steady line movement in the direction of Jung in the last couple of days, but we've also seen, some pretty serious line movement on the under, dropping from like the plus 130 tag down to the plus 100 tag. So with that being said, guys, we can move along to the next fight here. That should be an absolute scrap and a half. We got Bill Algeo, and these guys are both like being booked off of another fight, Herbert Burns. They had two separate matchups. They kind of got, peanut butter and jelly together. Hey, we'll figure it out. We got two halves of the bread. And it makes for a really interesting fight, right? Because, originally Billy Quarantillo, Bill Algeo, fight makes a lot of sense. Two Northeast guys, both going to bring a scrap, both going to fight at a really high pace. Seemed like a little bit of a bounce back spot for Billy Q, with all due respect. And I think that, now Bill Algeo's got this spot where he's got a lot of upside if you believe in the ABCs, the always bet on cardio, which I do think is very, very strong. However, then you look at the price, right? And now you're saying 65% of the time, Bill Algeo is able to survive the onslaught that's probably coming at him in round one, which I think that's probably fair. But what if Herbert Burns has made some improvements to the cardio? He has been off for a while. We haven't seen him. Maybe that's hard to project out. I think it is, but I also think that there's a lot of unknowns. And again, when I talk about unknowns, I talk about the line moving closer to 50-50. So for me, there's a lot that I don't know about this fight. You know, Bill Algeo, does he give his back in this fight like he has in every other single fight he's had in the UFC to like anybody who's ever asked for his back? He's like, yeah, take my back. Like he just gives his back. He doesn't offer a ton of resistance. He's not throwing in a whizzer. I think if you do that long enough, you play with that fire, eventually you're going to get burned. You know, I do think that it's very plausible that Herb Burns jumps on this guy's back in the first round and submits him, you know, but I think that what I've seen from Bill overall is that he does have good defensive tactics. He does have good hand fighting. He does have good reactions to guys getting good positions on him. So I think that he should win this fight, but I'm just going to stay off it. Maybe enter live. I've heard some people in the chat saying that. I think that's a great shout by you guys because then I get to see, you know, what Herbert Burns is bringing to the table here. But all I'm saying is like, from a market standpoint, like if I didn't have a strong, fight matchup read that Algeo was going to win the fight, I would be betting Herbert Burns on principle. And the reason being is because Herbert Burns has never been an underdog in a UFC fight, right? So like, yeah, he lost one in embarrassing fashion, but he was the favorite in that fight. He was the favorite in the other fights he's had in the organization. Bill Algeo, I don't think he's ever opened a significant favorite in a UFC fight. I don't think he's ever opened a minus 130 or above. And even in this fight, he didn't open that. Go back and look. So it's like he has been bet that way. People really like him. He's the more likable guy of the two for sure. But being a nice guy and being really likable and, you know, all those having fun fights also, it doesn't necessarily justify the price. So I think there's some worries, there's some concerns that I'd have for the Bill Algeo side in round one. But I think if he's able to extend him, he should be able to take over the fight as it goes. He should have the volume edge on the feet. I think he's a superior striker as well, but you got to be able to keep it there. He's actually shown some susceptibility to takedowns from lower level guys. He's gassed them out. He's made them work at a high pace rate. That's all very good. But there's some guys that they get to your back and the fight's over. Or they get your back and they can really make one position count. And I think that Herbert Burns can do that. So that's what ultimately is going to keep me off, even though I think Bill Algeo will win the fight in the end. Lou, how do you feel?
Yeah, this price has gotten a little out of control. Algeo is one of my guys, you know, like local guy for me. But this price is out of control. I'm looking at the total. I know Algeo hasn't shown finishing ability on this level yet, but this total fight doesn't go minus 160, under 2.5, minus 130 on one of my books. I feel like that's baked into Burns' complete winning condition. I mean, unless Burns' cardio is massively improved, I don't know how he wins a decision. I do like Algeo's get-up game, but Burns is so smooth on the ground, like with a lot of his subs, that it may not be a matter of 6-7 takedowns in the first round. It may be one takedown, that's it. We haven't seen Burns like make weight in 3 years. So a lot of this is scale dependent too. We have to see what he looks like tomorrow. If he looks good. I mean, what did he come in over last time? 4.5 pounds. I mean, we got to see kind of what he looks like here, but I do think Burns is incredibly live for that round one sub. I think he's got more than 5 minutes of cardio. I think he's got 7-8 minutes of cardio, but just looking at the total, it seems to be baked into everything on the Burns side, either a Burns win or a complete Burns collapse after that 7th minute. So I'm playing the under. I lean Burns, believe it or not. I don't want to play the whole win-loss narrative, you know, but like that seems to be Algeo's thing on that win-loss thing. So give me Burns. Breaks my heart because I love Algeo, but I'm going to go on the Burns side. The round one sub at plus 700, pretty reasonable price, but I'm really big on the under 2.5 here. Get both there. Get Burns either his sub-winning condition or him gassing the hell out.
I hear you, man. And to be honest with you, if it keeps going up, you might see me on your side.
And what price do you need to get on Burns?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm going to do a little bit further tape study tonight on that fight because it just jumped out at me as an insta pass when I saw the numbers at current prices. But if there's a plus 200, it's an insta snag for me.
Sure.
I'm going to look at what the sub round 1, sub round 2 combo prop is. I think I can only hit that in FanDuel, New Jersey, but I'll take a look at those kind of numbers, things like that, just because I think that Bill is a credible black belt, but I also think like you give enough guys who are really solid. He did the same thing with Brito. He did the same. It's like he'll just give his back in every exchange. I think eventually you pay the price for that. Wiz, what do you got, my man?
On this fight specifically, no. That's the fight of the card where it's just no. I like Algio's, cardio game a little bit. His striking isn't that half bad either. But once he hits the mat, I feel like he's just gonna get controlled for the whole rest of the round, whatever time is remaining. And do I trust Gilbert Burns' cardio to hold up? No, because I haven't seen it yet. So there's nothing I can go based off of. Can I trust Gilbert Burns to even make weight? Probably not. Weighed in at 149.5 last time, 4.5 pounds over, which is ridiculous. Now, the scales are going to be a big telling factor tomorrow, because if Gilbert Burns comes in on weight, but he looks like he's about to pass out, it's probably going to be a pass for me. I don't really think I'm going to lay anything on this fight unless Herbert looks in fantastic shape. I might go ahead and test that sub line, maybe the money line as well, but like very minimal. I don't have too much interest. Both of these fighters have a lot of unknowns. Both of them have looked good in some spots, and both have looked really terrible. I don't rate Herbert's hands at all. So he's very sub-reliant to me. And decision only is based off of control time. And that's how much of that's something I hate betting on, where you're betting on a fighter who only has one win condition, which is the sub. I don't think he's going to win a decision here, especially with that cardio if it stays the same. So I'm officially off of this fight until weigh-ins tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple props for this fight that I might get to before the show's over. But we'll see. We'll see how the night progresses. We'll see how frisky I'm feeling as the card goes on. But the next fight is one that also stood out to me as a potential pass spot here, because I respect both these guys. I'm not really sure I want to stand in front of them right now. You got Jack Shore on the one hand, rising prospect, very good fighter. Really has racked up a lot of wins. I think 30 in a row between the amateurs and the pro scene. It's extremely impressive. That's not easy to do. But it's also been fairly low level since he's got to the UFC compared to some of these upper echelon type of guys. I do think Ricky Simón, a lot more tested in terms of the guys he's fought. However, I think sometimes the thing that gets overrated the most in the market is level of competition. I do think level of competition is important. I think it's a relevant factor to consider. But I also think sometimes that can cloud our judgment in terms of how good somebody else is. How would they fare against that competition is a question you should ask yourself. So I think that Jack Shore, he could hang in there with a lot of these guys in the top of the division. What I think is going to hold him back ultimately is a little bit of a lack of athleticism relative to some of his peers. And that's not really something you can control. In terms of the things he can control, he does everything very well. He's got very good skills. He's got good reactions to being put under pressure. When somebody takes him down, he instantly has answers. He has a plan. He knows what he wants to do to get back up to his feet. I think that those are the kind of signs you want to look for in somebody who's going to be a talented prospect, somebody that has an idea of what they need to do next. They're not just like, oh, shit, I'm on my back. Like, now they start the thinking process. It's got to be drilled into your mind. Like, as soon as I go down, I'm doing this. Like, I have my plan for how I'm going to get back to my feet, how I'm going to get the fight back onto my terms. And I think that Jack Shore has that. He was in a fight last time where he's losing the first round. He's got to crawl his way back into that second round. Then he's got to take round 3. I think that showed some adversity and an ability to overcome it on the Jack Shore side. But on the other side, Ricky Simón, he's been pretty battle-tested now in the UFC. I don't really rate his most recent win. I don't really take a ton of stock into that. But just the level of guys that he's competed with at a high level, that he's fought back and forth with, that he was landing some good, clean shots in the boxing against Rob Font. Pretty effective working with the boxing there. And I think that his submission game is not something to be overlooked. I think that he does work with talented guys. I think he's been putting in a lot of time, effort, and energy, both in the gi and outside the gi, to improve in that realm. So I don't think Jack Shore is just going to necessarily work him over in the grappling at any stage. I think that Ricky might be able to win this fight by mixing in some takedowns and getting on top of him. He does have a lower center of gravity. He does throw pretty powerful shots. He throws a pretty good volume as well on the feet. If you look historically, these two guys are like the two highest DraftKings scorers per minute, basically. Not quite. I think maybe number 2 and number 3 or something, but right up there at the top of the distribution because they're very high volume. They get into the fight. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be scrambly. I think we're going to see the takedowns mixed in from both guys. I think to varying degrees of success. I think Shore's going to struggle a little bit with the physicality of Simone, but I think that the longer this fight spends at distance, the more it favors Jack Shore because Jack Shore has length, because he works behind a jab. I think that Ricky's going to have a little bit of difficulty getting inside based on his head movement based defense. Like he's kind of stationary on his feet at times and moving his upper body and his head. And I think that that will work okay, but it won't put him in a great position to counter because he does not have the same length as Shore. So I think that it should be a great fight. I'm really looking forward to it, but this is not one where I felt I could plant my flag with any conviction. And I'm going to let the rest of the market take the lead on this one. Lou, how do you feel?
Well, you broke it down pretty perfectly. I'm going to add one thing, and we see this a lot. I know that Shore is not your stereotypical grappler, but when you get two guys that excel in the grappling, what do we usually end up with? A 15-minute striking match. If we get a 15-minute striking match, Shore is a steal at that price. So everything that you said about what Shore does well, and I think where he lacks in athleticism, the dude's a dog, man. He's like Jonathan. He's like Pierce for me. Like fights for your money. Like finds that third gear, that fourth gear in the late in the fight. Like can just turn it on and he can completely empty the tank. So I think he's going to put on a show late. I think he's going to put on a show early. And this is no knock on Ricky Simone, but I like what they're doing with Shore. I like the matchups they're bringing him along with. And again, I think this is going to be on the feet a lot more than people realize because they respect each other's grappling. So I could see Simone going to it if he's getting beat up on the feet in the first. I could see him trying to do it, but Shore's got a pretty decent get-up game too. So I think in a fight that ends up being standing more than people realize, I want Shore striking there. I think the price is pretty fair. So give me Shore. The decision props, you're not really getting a lot of equity to go for him. So I'm just taking Shore money line. I think it's good value. That's where I'm at on this one.
Hey, I like it, man. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you like the favorite, you lay the favorite. For me, I didn't come away with super strong conviction, but I do think that this is a winnable fight for either guy. So if you are, convicted on the Shore side, best of luck, my man. And I think he's going to give you a very honest effort. Wiz, how do you feel about this one?
I really don't like this matchup because I really like both of these guys and I rate them pretty high. And they're both in their prime or getting to their prime, both young, 29 and 27, respectively for Simone and Shore. Man, here's the thing. I think if Ricky takes Shore down, he's going to be able to hold him for quite a bit of time just because of that strength that he imposes on his grappling and his wrestling. But man, we saw how Shore got up from under Timur Valiev. That was one of the most insane get-ups I've seen in MMA. He just got up on one leg. It's crazy. But on the feet, I do favor Shore pretty bigly here. But here's the thing: Ricky Simone has had. I mean, if people forget, he has had wins over Ray Borg and Merab Dvalishvili. And Dvalishvili, he choked him out, guillotined him. Now, the win against Borg was coming up in weight. Borg is usually a 125er, and Simone had a pretty decent size advantage there. But still a decent fighter with high IQ, and he was able to get that split decision win against him. As a pick, I can't really pick and choose here. I think this is one for the fans to sit and enjoy. I would rather not lay a dime on this fight and enjoy it without any pressure or when we bet on these fights and you bet on a fighter and you're just watching what he does versus what the other fighter is doing sometimes. I don't want to have that in this fight. I want to take it all in and really enjoy the masterclass that's going to be put on from both gentlemen. So in a betting perspective, it's dog or pass for me, but I'm laying no dime on this one.
My man Patty's trying hard to get us to plant the flag here with Shore by knockout plus 575. Can't say that's not somewhat intriguing because you do look at 50% of the losses on the Simone side are coming inside the distance, but I would be looking more at that Shore ITD plus 260 because he does attempt subs at a decent rate. We know that Ricky, when hurt, can fire off a takedown attempt right into a guillotine. It's happened to him before. So just something to think about if he was to get hurt at distance. The normal wrestle reaction is to fire off a bad shot from far away that gets you guillotined. So you always got to keep that in the back of your head if you're hunting for sub props like me. So I do think that that is like an outside possibility as well here. But should be a great fight. And we don't have the strongest reads on it except my man Lou. So we can move along to the next one here. And to be honest with you folks, I'm not the strongest read on this one either. You know, the one thing I will say is I think that Punahele Soriano is a talented wrestler. I have heard people this week, thinking that maybe he's not so good at wrestling. I think that he's just had some tough matchups. You know, he doesn't want to wrestle with these guys. So he's trying to keep the fight upright. And then he injures his knee. So then he's like kind of like leaning against the fence to even stay upright the rest of the fight. I think it was a little bit of a tough draw there. And he's coming back pretty quick, which I think is a little interesting given the fact that he was injured in that spot. He's being priced as a pretty heavy favorite here. But I can sort of understand it. You know, we kind of saw a little bit of a self-immolation, in the Brundage fight, where I thought that, he kind of spent himself really early and just was like, I better like get on top of him or the fight's going to end. Like he's going to hurt me back because I just swung all these punches and now I'm exhausted. And I think that, he made a really bad mistake there. I thought he kind of gave up that sub, but Cody looked good in his last fight as well. So it's not like that's a loss that's aging poorly, but it also is like kind of concerning if you're like spent at the 4-minute mark and like looking for desperado takedowns that you put your head in the hole and just like hope for the best. I kind of felt like it was like a, we talk about fighting being like a psychological game. I just felt like it was like a weird, like psychological break there where he just threw everything and then was like, I need to get out of here. Because there was no real guillotine defense either. But we see in MMA, there's a lot of guys that don't do very good guillotine defense. We'll talk about some more of that later on in the card as well. But I think that this is an interesting fight. It's a fun fight, but it's not a fight that I have tremendous conviction on. Certainly not minus 230, 70% conviction on. I think that Puna wins the fight. I think that he could have some takedown insurance on the back end, in the later rounds after both men start to slow down a little bit. We've seen him do that in the past to guys like Jamie Pickett, where he's able to get those takedowns off, get on top of guys. We saw it regionally for him as well. It's kind of like a safety valve for him. He doesn't like to do it. He'd rather go out there and swing big overhands and try and catch you with a left hook and take your head off. But I do think that, Punahele could take him down, take his back, get a choke locked in, especially if the guy's tired, They say in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you take a guy who's got a black belt, you punch him in the face once, he's a brown belt. You punch him in the face twice, he's a purple belt. It's like we can really quickly change the equation with some damage. So I think that this could be a good competitive back and forth fight. That's why I'm not interested in laying the money line. But I also think, there's other underdog spots I prefer to look at on the card. I think that it could turn into, Puna looks like value after the fact because he knocks him out in the first 20 seconds or something. But I do think to give him his credit and his respect, the guy had a pretty lengthy win streak outside the UFC in terms of Dalcha champion. He had won some titles outside the UFC. And I think that, Dalcha has shown he has some power. He can hurt guys. I mean, he had Brundage on the ropes a little bit with his power shots just by unloading on him in the early rounds. We've seen Brendan Allen was getting off pretty cleanly on Puna. I thought that was surprising. I thought Puna was going to win that fight. So for me, just haven't had the best read on these guys. Going to let this one pass me by. Lou, how do you feel?
So first of all, Cody Brundage had him right where he wanted him in his last fight. He used the Homer Simpson, just get hit a lot and then like gas the guy out approach. And this line is like bananas. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how I can get behind like Soriano at this number. And at the same time, I don't see a path where Dalcha gets him out of there. Like, Puna's pretty tough. Like, so like he's not, I don't think he's going to be able to bonk him early. And he doesn't have more than, I don't like his cardio at all. So I actually looked at this Puna by decision prop, which is like a terrifying bet to make here because it does have the highest ITD line at -200 last I checked. But I don't know how you bet this fight at all. I mean, it's favorite or pass, and it's a parlay piece at best. But I don't know how you can feel good at this number. But the dog, I have no interest in betting Dalsha like in this fight at all. I think it's a horrible stylistic matchup for him. Yeah, I'm just off this fight completely, man.
Trying to get the old guy Puna back on track. Wiz, how do you feel, my man?
Yeah, I mean, initially when I saw this fight on paper, I was like, maybe it's a dog or pass. I assumed that Puna was going to be the favorite. I didn't think he was going to be a big favorite like this. And man, this line is getting way out of hand. Yeah, Puna has never been knocked out. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets knocked out in this fight, but I do think his wrestling is going to pay dividends here. I just feel like after that first round, Dalcha is going to fall off of a cliff, and like a big cliff. And I also, when I first saw this fight announced, I thought Dalcha was going to have a lot more advantage in the measurables, and I was wrong. Puna's a taller fighter, but he lacks in the reach department. Dalcha's just left a lot for wanting, and I don't know what the correct word or the correct verbiage for that is, but he's left me wanting more when it comes to his fight IQ specifically, especially in that Brundage fight. I'm like, what are you doing? I know you're tired, but just like back off of the cage and just continue teeing off. That's as simple as it was, and he could have won that fight. I'm sorry, Lou. I know that's your guy, but
I can't hear you over the money that Cody's stacking right now from all these wins.
But yeah, I mean, I was very impressed with Puna, how he continued to fight with his injured knee in his last fight. That in itself showed me so much grit and toughness, and I have to respect the guy here. So I'm also like staying completely away off this fight. Like Lou said, Puna is probably a parlay piece at best. That decision line doesn't really sound too bad either, though. Might be a little surprising one. A lot of the times when we think fights are going to finish, they don't. They just drag on because both these fighters respect each other so much. They just put on a very low volume, very cautious effort.
Yeah, I'm seeing right now that Puna ITD is being priced like 50% on the market. And Puna by sub is being priced at 10-1.
Uh-oh.
I'm just saying, I don't know if that's passing the smell test for me, boys. I'm gonna be honest with you. He's got 2 wins by sub, boys. Dalton's a pretty tough guy to put away. Only Ankalaev at 205. And Brundage with that sub. Oh, get out of here, dude. It's over. It's over. Shipping it for the boys.
Do we have a stat? We need a stat on people's records after Cody Brundage subs them in the first round.
I think the record clearly states that they go on in their next fight and get subbed in the first round by Punahele Soriano.
Love
Ship
it.
us the bag.
Love it.
So Puna bag season. That is now the wave. With that being said, we can move along to the next fight here. Wow, this is a fight that when I talk about stay away fight, I was like, I am staying so far away from this. Your head will spin. Not gonna lie though, the more I looked at it, the more I was tempted. I haven't done nothing. You don't need to swing the oranges at me yet. You don't need to call the orderlies yet. But gotta be honest, not seeing this Miesha Tate steam. I'm not buying this Miesha Tate sell job as far as I'm concerned. You know, I don't know that Lauren Murphy is in a great spot in this fight. She's coming off what's called a classic letdown spot, which is when somebody loses a title fight, typically they don't do so well in their next fight out. But we have seen a little bit over time, I think, that people are starting to buck that trend. People that think that they could still get another title fight in the division, people like this. And to be honest with you, 125 is so thin that Lauren Murphy wouldn't be delusional for thinking she could get another crack at the title with 2 wins. Granted, that being said, I think that there is an upper echelon. I think there's a emerging new crop of young contenders that they're going to start to use to kind of usher these current set of contenders out of the division. But I think this idea that Miesha Tate, 125 title contender, is a foregone conclusion is a bit farcical, right? It's so when she comes back, everybody's telling me how I shouldn't bet her against Marion Renault because Marion Renault has been active and she's been inactive. I was like, yeah, but Marion Renault is not going to be active anymore and she's going to take over in her place. So it's what, you think they're just going to send her off with a nice smile and a win and a pat on the back? It's that's not the fight business. You go out the same way you come in, in a bad way. And normally people lose at the beginning of the career and then they lose again at the end, right? And I think that that's kind of the trajectory for some of the fighters on this card. And in this case, Miesha Tate is no spring chicken. Yes, she is younger. Yes, she probably is taking better supplements. Yes, she is wealthier, straight up. So she can come in with more dedication to making this weight, like nutritionist, all that kind of stuff. So could she come in looking great? Yes. Is that a foregone conclusion? No. At 135, you could accuse her at the end of her first run of just being uninterested in fighting, clinically uninterested in fighting in her own fights while she was out there. So then she comes back and she looked a little bit more engaged, a little bit more enthusiastic, let's say a little bit happier to be there against Ketlen Vieira, but she took a beating in that fight. And I said that she was going to take a beating in that fight because Ketlen Vieira is a young, fresh, hungry fighter that's, looking for something. Is Lauren Murphy that? No. But she's also not plus 130 or plus 120 or whatever Ketlen was, right? It was a lot closer of a line. Now we're talking about plus 180, plus 190 on a girl that her worst performance ever was against Shevchenko. By the way, who is favoring among us Miesha Tate to beat Valentina Shevchenko today? Nobody. She's no Talia Santos, in my opinion. So I think that, yes, Tate can win the fight. Yes, she could potentially win by knockout, as our friend Ao says there. But truthfully, I think that this is the kind of spot where I'm looking at a dog or pass situation 100%. I don't know what I'm getting from Tate at 125. I haven't liked what I've seen from her overall in the comeback. I thought that Marion Renault was winning rounds. It's at various points in that fight. I really don't like anything that I've seen from Miesha, except for some of the improvements in the boxing. She could win this fight. She could look good at 125. Yet to be seen. Big unknowns. So dog or pass situation for me. And everybody with a Tate ticket, God bless you, good luck, but it's just not for me. Lou, how about you?
I'm never betting on Tate at this price. I'm with you that it's dog or pass. I want to see the weigh-ins tomorrow. I can't imagine I'm going to have any money on this fight. I do want to point out a really interesting prop. I always eye up these split decisions because I'm secretly, my other account on Twitter is Tim Troiano. We're the same person. I swear, I turn my hat around and we're the same dude.
All right, I want to see your tennis swing. This is how I check.
I'm not bad at tennis. I'm sure.
I'm
sure he kicked my ass, but so I typically look at these split decision props, and usually they're within they're in that plus 450 to plus 600 range, unless the fight doesn't go line is minus 400, then you might get a huge number. The fight to end in a split decision on this one is plus 325, which is insane. It's they're just, here you go. They want this fight to end in split decision. I don't want to play the whole they want Tate to win because they think Tate Shevchenko would sell tickets. I like Lauren Murphy. I think she is another one like Jacoby. She finds weird ways to win these gritty, super close fights. I'm never going to bet on Tate in the situation. If she looks terrible on the scale tomorrow, maybe a small, completely untracked play, by the way, on Murphy. I just don't want that one in my record at all. I don't want people to know I even bet that fight, but I just can't see. There's no way to get to Tate here. And I wouldn't even put her in a parlay. I just think it's going to be such a super close. Every round's going to be I'm not sure who won that one. Twitter's going to be interesting during that fight. It's going to be 2018 Tate, 2018 Murphy, and then we don't know. So I don't want any part of that. I'm rooting for Murphy. I'll just enjoy it as a fan.
Patty, would you believe me if I told you that Lauren Murphy is attempting 2.5 more strikes on average per minute spent at distance than Miesha Tate is? Would you believe me if I told you that she has the same knockdown rate as Miesha Tate, but she's never been knocked down in the UFC? The only time she was like super badly like out of it was against Shevchenko in her last fight, which was rightly stopped. But I think that, you know, she's probably going to attempt more strikes, and she's going to attempt head strikes. You know, she's going to land head strikes in this fight, and Miesha Tate does not like those, and her face swells up really badly. She looked like an alien in that fight against Ketlin, who doesn't land that many strikes, who doesn't throw that much volume, but she was still able to get off with a lot of clean blows in that fight. And to be honest, she said, like, Miesha Tate's my hero. I didn't want to finish her. Like, you know, like, she's my hero. She's crying after the fight. She's thanking her in the octagon. She's giving her a big hug. She didn't want to hurt her, and she still busted her face all up. It's like, I don't think Lauren Murphy's going to have any regard for her face. You know, I think she's going to go out there swinging, and she's tough like an old leather boot. So let's go Lauren Murphy. What is that you feel?
As much as I hate to say this, I don't have anything on this fight. That's the good part. But this fight actually fits a criteria, a betting criteria for me. It's when a fighter this late on in their career moves down specifically in weight, there must be some sort of motivation behind it. And if it was the opposite, moving up, then it's a complete fade. For me, when a fighter moves down in weight and it's their first time moving to that weight class, there is definitely some sort of motivation behind the move. And I just don't like either of these fighters, to be honest with you. I do think Tate can land a couple of takedowns too, maybe some control time. I don't think she has the advantage on the feet and striking department either, though. So that's not really compelling on the betting side. I just feel like this is a complete stay away fight too. Don't even attempt to bet on this fight, please. Please, all of you. I'm sorry. There's going to be a lot of simps betting on Miesha Tate here. And I want to tell you guys, please don't. If you haven't, don't already. But, man, I do see why people are betting Tate in a sense if they are thinking the same thing as me with that criteria, where moving down in weight is a motivation spot. So ultimately, if you put a gun to my head to just pick someone, I'm going to say Tate. But am I going to lay money on Tate this late on in her career? No. She hasn't really given me any indication that she's really willing to go at another title shot here. And going
sure it's only minus 210, bro. You can just pay $210 to win $100.
Take my house. No, but I was watching an interview from Lauren Murphy today, and she was speaking about her last weight cut against Valentina, and apparently she had some sort of disease that her coaches advised her against. So I'm assuming, I think she also moved camps after that whole scuffle with her coaches because they misadvised her. They told her, oh, no, you can cut weight. You don't need antibiotics. You take that after the fight. And she felt like complete, excuse my language, shit. So, yeah, that's...
You don't have to excuse your language here.
Okay. So, yeah, she said that she felt like shit and she shouldn't have fought that night because she felt those effects from the disease weeks before. So who knows what happens here, man? Who knows? We could see a really angry Lauren Murphy coming out with vengeance, trying to prove her point as to why she deserves another title shot, or we could see Miesha Tate with a well-renowned game here for moving down a lot faster and being able to take some more damage. We'll see.
Interesting takes. I will probably hold off. I'd like to see a 2-1 number emerge. I think it will happen by fight time. But I would not get involved at Lauren Murphy, probably under that number, but do think it's already a little wide. And I can't be convinced on this number for Miesha Tate. I think the marketing's there, the angle's there for that, but I think outside of that, it's drawn pretty thin. So that's fair play. I like this. Take the over for 1,000 and Tate for $20. That's a great way to get your stake back and keep yourself in the action. Get on a money line and give yourself a chance to maybe get a cupcake with your winnings if you bet $20. So with that being said, guys, we can move along here to the next fight. And this is, the time where I'm going to get biased as shit. I'm just going to come out and say I'm biased as shit. New York is in the building. All right. I'm recording this 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is, from Monroe, New York, because Section 9 is in the building and Shane Burgos is here. He's taking on the Canadian rising prospect, Charles Jourdain. And I've been betting Charles Jourdain's fights for a little bit now, and I've looked for a couple opportunities to fade him. I laid off, obviously, in the last fight, thank goodness. Saved myself some dollars, right? I didn't try and get in front of him with the Lando Venadas of the division because I felt like in that fight, Lando's kind of one to get into a chaotic fight, and really he leaves himself open in those fights. We saw a chaotic exchange where he landed a lot of good shots. He looked very good, but ultimately conceded his neck in the Tony Ferguson fight. His very first fight in the UFC mirrored in a lot of ways that Jourdain fight where he landed a lot of big shots. He dropped him, from the held leg position, hit him with those big looping hooks. So really was able to get off on some good work there. But we know that Jourdain's an opportunistic finisher. He's got a crafty left hand. He's got very good weight transfer in his boxing. I think that that's probably his best skill. He really pushes his weight off the back foot and comes through a left hand on a blitzing motion. He's relentless, in the sense that he's going to throw offense the whole time. Even when he gets tired, he's going to try and throw some offense. He's going to try and keep people off. And I think that, what Jourdain does well is he can throw those open side kicks to the body. He can throw them in volume. He'll throw them a lot of times. He can mix the head kicks up a little bit and throw those as well. And I think that, he's got plus level skills in every position, but he's a little bit younger. I think he's a little bit less seasoned. Talking about quality of competition, it's not very comparable, in my opinion. The Andre Ules of the world, former 135ers, southpaw, I believe, in his own right. So it was a southpaw and southpaw matchup there. A little bit different dynamics than what we're going to see here. It's going to be a little bit more of that closed stance dynamic. So I think that, we'll see both these guys switch stance a little bit. Neither one of them is like glued into their stance, but I do think that we will see more of that orthodox positioning from Shane Burgos here. So I think that when Charles Jourdain has lost, more often it's been to these orthodox fighters. It's been to guys that are bigger than him. Des Green, just a guy who was bigger than him, muscled him around a little bit. UFC debut, you can understand that. You can give that one to the other side. Then you start thinking about, the other fights that he's lost. It's like Julian Erosa. Julian Erosa won the first round of that fight. He had him hurt at the end of the first round, was doing really good work in that fight with the hooks. Charles Jourdain tends to keep a pretty stationary front guard in front of his head. And I think that a lot of people who throw longer hooks can wing around that pretty easily and get through to him. In addition, he's got that bullish guard where guys throw uppercuts and they get through pretty easily again. So I felt like those were some of the shots that were continuously landing for Rosa, where he knew that he could come into the pocket and blindly take those. And then when it stopped working in terms of the head strikes, because Jourdain was mixing it up, he was using his footwork a little bit more. He started mixing in the teep kicks to the body. He started mixing in, a multi-layered attack, and he started throwing big left hooks to the body as well. He started throwing body work with the right hand, the jab. I think that all that paid huge dividends. And when you watch Shane Burgos fight, the one thing you could say with certainty is that he comes forward, he throws a lot of big strikes. He's going to put himself in range to throw. He's also going to put himself in range to be hit. So can Charles Jourdain win this fight? Yes, obviously. He could win the fight by knockout. He could win the fight by submission. He's an extremely dangerous guy. But I think the decision equity in this fight is heavily in the favor of Shane Burgos because of the volume, because of his ability to mix in takedowns, because of the fact that Charles Jourdain gets his kicks caught very frequently. And I think that if he throws his kicks in this matchup, Shane Burgos could catch one, get on top of him, and advance positions. He's a very strong guy. He's massive for the division. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage in the spot. And I think that the fact that Shane Burgos has fought these high-level guys. He's now taken a year off. He's done some training with Josh Emmett. His brother is another pro on the rise, a young pro. So it's not like he's out of the loop on what is working in the MMA meta. He is like building another young fighter towards their career. He is in the peak, I would say, of his career in terms of athletic prime meeting skill development. I think that he's made some good choices in the lead up to this fight, and I'm hopeful that what we're going to see from him is a balanced approach. This guy is the last guy to submit Bilal Gio, who has not been submitted since he was in regional MMA, right? CFFC, Beast Coast, stand up, right? This is the best regional organization by win rate in the UFC right now, is the CFFC. So these guys from the Northeast, they're not playing any games. And Shane Burgos showed both regionally and in the amateurs that this guy can really grapple. So I think that if he starts grappling, he could win this fight by being bigger, by being stronger, by muscling this guy around, and by frankly breaking him from a cardiovascular standpoint. Because the one flaw I would say in Charles Jourdain's game is that if somebody has superior cardio to him, his game can start to fall apart a little bit. And that's exactly what happened against Julian Erosa. He was getting what I call easy money takedowns. He was popping out on his back every time he wanted to. There was no effective use of the whizzer. He was easily stepping around behind him, lifting him, elevating him, slamming him, going through the double leg. I think all that bodes really poorly for him here, because the other thing is people will forget, because he finished Lando Venata in impressive fashion. Lando Venata was busting him up on the feet, landing heavy strikes. And then when they got into the wrestling and grappling, Lando Venata grabbed a high crotch, took this guy ass over tea kettle, turned him sideways, and slammed him into side control. So it's like people have forgotten, I think, what happened in that fight, where he was getting, slammed around a little bit and had to find that knockdown shot to bring him back into the fight. So is that always live? Is that always possible? Yes. He's a dangerous fighter. I'll never take that away from him. And I think that Charles Jourdain is a very good fighter. But I also think sometimes he's been a little bit overvalued. I think that his record as an underdog, as a favorite, reflects a little bit better. His record as a betting commodity reflects a little bit better because he was able to get that draw with Josh Kulabau, who was about to beat him as a plus 400 underdog and dropped him in that fight. So again, a guy with length, a guy with wide hooks, a guy that has some power behind his shots and who's committed to staying in the pocket and throwing with you, dropped it, hurt him, was able to land clean, hard shots on his chin. I think that still could be a problem here. So for me, I'm going to ultimately be on the Shane Burgos side. I'm going to be biased as shit. Section 9 will be yelling, screaming in the building. New York, stand up. There's only 2 New York fighters on this card. Dwight Grant, who trains at the American Kickboxing Academy, so he doesn't really claim New York like that. But Shane Burgos lives in upstate New York, from around here, trains with the Tiger Showman's guys, trains with a bunch of other talented teams around here, been grappling on this local scene. He's a damn stud, and I think that he's at the prime of his career. A lot of guys in the top 5 and the top 10 in this featherweight division are in their 30s, because it takes some seasoning, it takes some real craft and some cleverness to stay at the top of this crowded, shark-infested waters in this division. I think Charles Jourdain will be there. I don't think it's this Saturday night. I think they're feeding him to a very hungry man in home field advantage. New York, this man's never lost. I'm not going to doubt him now. Shane Burgos for the win. I think this is a winnable matchup. I think the 6 inches of reach will pay dividends. Lou, how do you feel?
How do I follow that up? How do I follow that up, dude? So Burgos are homeless, not just because of what you said, but he has so many advantages here. I do like the New York record, but the reach advantage is huge. And I just want to go over like some stuff with Jourdain here, is that, like taking the Venata fat out, like, Andre Ewell, all right, like Ewell's a pro. Like, I'm not trying to take like too much away from him, but he looked terrible against the Rosa. In all fairness, you didn't bring up the Marcelo Rojo fight. He was getting beaten up in that one too, until he got a late finish. I mean, he wasn't dominant in that fight at all. Kulabau, great fight, but gave him problems. Feely, another guy. Feely's another action fighter, gave him problems. These are the kind of guys that beat Jourdain. And I'm looking at this is like a lot of his history in the UFC. It's he looks, what he does is more impressive than his results. And I think that because of the flair that he fights with, people tend to overvalue him. But the fact of the matter is he gets reckless. And this is a dude you can't get reckless with, because Burgos, his boxing is so good. He's technical. He's just going to keep jabbing him and piecing him up with combos the whole time. I'm big on the Burgos side here, but also because it's a Burgos fight and because it's a Jourdain fight, how do you not have a round 3 sprinkle on this fight? So Burgos round 3 is plus 1,000. It's not amazing odds. I'm not playing a method. I do think the sub is potentially live. I'll be curious to see if Jourdain, I feel like he's stubborn. Because like there would be a path where if he doesn't like how it's going on the feet, to try to go to some kind of grappling here. But I wonder if he's just going to be like, you know what, I'm not here for that. And I wonder if Jourdain will even try to initiate it. But if he does, he's in for kind of a rude awakening. Like, just because Burgos doesn't use it a lot doesn't mean he's not perfectly. His grappling, everything I've seen on tape is better than average. I mean, he just doesn't like to do it. I mean, that's not what he's there for. And I don't think that's what Jourdain's there for. But I like Burgos big here. I'm going to play the round 3 prop. I debated playing fight to end in round 3 just in case Jourdain goes like War Jourdain in the 3rd. But I don't know, man. I think just that reach, he's just going to get pieced out. This is going to be like target practice. So give me Burgos or homeless.
And I truly think that both these guys are alive in round 3, you know? Like, both these guys put themselves in dangerous situations. But I do think that one guy's got a little bit better range management tools in the fight based on his size, based on, just some anthropomorphic advantages that are a little bit unchanging. You know, you see Jourdain used to fight at 135 pounds. Shane Burgos is a very big 145er. I would not be surprised if 2 years from now we're talking about him in the 155-pound division. So I think if he's going to make a run at featherweight, it's going to be right now while he's still able to make the weight class. And I think that, he's going to be trying to make that push for gold. That's what he always talks about. He's pursuing championships. He's not here to take part. So rooting for him this weekend. Wiz, how do you feel, my brother?
You know, I love Burgos. I love the Burgos side here. A lot of reasons. I love that reach, especially when it's someone who's predominantly a boxer. I love that reach advantage. And when you're going up against someone that's going to give you the fight that you want, I mean, obviously both fighters are going to give each other the fight they want, which is on the feet. I'm not going to be expecting anyone to shoot takedowns left and right here. It's going to be predominantly on the feet. I just think Burgos is levels ahead in the striking and in the striking defense specifically too. Burgos has some nasty counters, and in the defense department, like obviously we saw him get tagged up by Josh Emmett, but when the part that impressed me the most is when you get tagged by Josh Emmett 4 times with clean shots onto your chin and still stay standing. Yeah, that's a big telling factor to his chin. Now, that knockdown or knockout against Barboza was very concerning, but that was a year and a couple months ago. So he had enough time to recover. Not to mention also on the Jourdain side, Jourdain has fought literally, he fought a month and a week ago or a month and 2 weeks ago. So it's a quick turnaround. That doesn't always fare too well for fighters. And the size advantage is going to do Burgos wonders here. I'm pretty bigly on Burgos. I'm looking to add on to my position too. I already have 2 units on him. I'm probably going to add another 2 if anything. I just think it's his fight to lose here, especially with all the advantages. I mean, strength of schedule too, man. Like you look at the guys he's been fighting, and he's been able to keep up with somewhat. It's too impressive to look past. I know a lot of people overrate the strength of schedule, but when you look at these fighters like Josh Emmett, like the Edson Barbosas, I mean, Billy Q, some decent names on this record. So give me Shane Burgos here bigly.
I like it. I can't add much more to that. Like the Shane Burgos side, wishing him the best of luck. Section 9, we too shall rise. And he's our best representative going right now. So shout out to Shane Burgos and wishing him the very best of luck. But the ever entertaining Charles Jourdain will be back. Very good prospect, still a talented guy, but a little bit small for this division and a little bit small, I think, for this matchup. So I like the Burgos side. And with that being said, guys, we can move along to the next one here. Just want to say we got 138 people rocking with us live. I expect 138 likes at minimum on this video. Every one of you guys that's watching, go ahead and drop a like. Let us know who you're rocking with in that comment section below. Truly appreciate when you do. And get subscribed each and every week, breaking down these fights, giving you our best effort, and really trying to go in depth. And we're not always agreeing, right? We're always coming to you with our own independent thoughts on these fights. So hopefully we put you in a position to succeed, whether you ride with us or you go against us. But with that being said, we got a main card fight between Matt Schnell and Suma Darji, and it's going to be in the 125-pound division. So Matt Schnell, he's another guy who's done a little bit of this back and forth, that I'm at this weight, I'm at this weight. At 125, he definitely has some credible-ish wins. But I would ask people, what's his best win? He's got the Jourdain Espinosa win. He had, what was that other win that was pretty impressive? Where he got the quick sub. I think that was Smolka, right? But like outside of those wins, he really has fought a pretty low level of competition. And when he fought the higher level guys, he kind of got ran through most of the time. Rogerio Bontorin, not a guy who's kept his place within the company, I don't believe. I think he's been let go. You look at some other guys that he's been fighting, Pantoja absolutely cleaned him up. Kind of a really weird and not so good optical knockout. It's like just got touched and went down real bad. Didn't like that. The Hector Sandoval fight, I talk about it all the time. It's just a horrible rewatch. Will not give you confidence on the side of Schnell, but he does have some good jiu-jitsu. You can't write that off. He does have an aggressive jiu-jitsu game. He does have a decent bit of power, so he will throw, a hard shot himself. I don't know, though. I think at the end of the day, if you have a really, really suspect chin, it's going to be hard to pull off these wins. I know that Suma Darji has some losses by sub, so that's where the sub equity could potentially come into play. But I'm not personally a guy who bets on Matt Schnell. I think that Matt Schnell is somebody that I look to fade or just pass on his fights, and he's a big dog here. Maybe that's a little bit premature because we haven't seen Sue make those improvements necessarily on the ground. But I do think that on the feet, Suma Darji gets hit less at distance than anybody else on this fight card. I think that's important. I think Schnell's going to struggle to find him with his shots. And I think that Sue's a little bit faster overall. So I would not be surprised if Sue's able to find the chin. I think if he does find the chin, could be a quick night at the office for him. But for me, just not passionate enough about the take to lay it here. My long shot degenerate parlays maybe will have some Suma Darji. But on anything that I'm taking really serious, it's not for me. Maybe I could be talking to a Darji ITD, but it's probably juice, so I'm not interested. What do you think, Lou?
So I have two tracked bets now. One is Burgos. This is my other one. I have the under 2.5 at -140 for substantial. And just so you know, like to not talk you into the Suma Darji in the distance line, his in the distance line is -110. The under 2.5 is -140. So you may as well take the 30 cents and get Schnell's round one. Because, look, for 3 minutes, he's live for a sub, I guess. Like, I always want to believe that he's live for a quick sub. And then as soon as the fight starts, I'm like, oh, that's right. It's Matt Schnell. Like, again, he's a professional fighter. Like, not talking shit on him. But he makes these mistakes early. I mean, he actually looked okay against Royval for like a minute. Like he looked competitive, and then he made a mistake and he ate it. And Bontorin, I mean, I don't know what he was doing in that fight, to be honest. But to your point, like his impressive wins were against like lower level competition. Anybody with a decent skill set beats him. The problem I have with betting Suma Darji is his price is crazy. And look, the guy's another killer be killed guy. He makes mistakes. Do I want to read too much in the fact that he's been subbed 4 times and Schnell can get submissions? That's a trap, but that's a trap thing. I mean, it's like, all right. So I can't bet Darji at this money line price, but I'm loving this under. At least it gives me Schnell's winning condition, which is round 1 sub. Like, so that's my bet here, but lean to the Darji side. Also, the Tibetan Eagle, awesome fucking nickname.
Sick nickname. Don't know if they're gonna let him keep it, but sick nickname. Wiz, how do you feel about this fight, my brother?
To touch on what Lou was saying in that fight with Royval, he almost put Royval out. Schnell was looking really good until he didn't. Until Royval somewhat found a way to squirm up and do what he did. Now, am I really high on Suma Darji? Not really. But am I high on Schnell? Absolutely not. This guy is a killer be killed fighter within probably 2 minutes. I don't rate him after 2 minutes, and that's with all seriousness. He hasn't given me any reason to rate him as a fighter, with all due respect, unless he gets that very early finish. And yeah, I think Sumaderji cleans him up here. But would I be surprised if within those first 2 minutes he takes Sumaderji down on a weird scramble and grabs his neck? Absolutely not either. Because Schnell is one of those grapplers that's just very quick. And obviously, yeah, they're at 125. They have to be quick, or quicker than the rest of the fighters we see. But this guy is really fast into his transitions and the grappling. And I do rate his jiu-jitsu here. I rate it pretty highly. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. I have nothing on this fight. I probably will have nothing on this fight. Lou's kind of tempting me with this under here. So maybe a little bit.
Do it.
We'll see. But it's also going to be a lot to see tomorrow on the scales on the Schnell side for me.
I like it. And yeah, I think that Sue is going to win the fight. I think that Schnell is kind of an unplayable character as far as I'm concerned. But the prop market is where I will look to target this fight most likely. Props and totals, just because the money line's a little outrageous. I could see Sue losing inside the distance. So why get out over my skis when I could lay less of a number, cover some more win equity for the other side as well. I do think, though, the one thing I hate is when everybody lines up on one of these unders for these lower weight fights. And granted, the last one that we did this for, it worked out, and I should have laid way more on it because it cashed in like a minute and a half. But I do just get spooked when I see a lot of people all on the same play, and I've heard some love for this, under, but I do think that overall it's just a good side, and it's probably going to continue to run in terms of price until fight time. So with that being said, guys, we can move along to the next one here. And speaking of stopping Asian hate, we've got a fight that's actually going to be very important to an audience outside the United States. And I think that we've got the Leech, Jingliang, on the one side, is taking on Muslim Salikhov. And if you look at their social media, Muslim Salikhov is a huge star. The guy's got a lot of following. But I think there's also, this issue that he's had, which is like he couldn't get the fights that you'd want to progress your career until it's too late. And like sometimes you see, fighters that are really good, really talented, and the UFC identifies them early as like, this guy will beat a lot of really good guys, and he will sell not one pay-per-view. He won't get one person to tune into a broadcast that wasn't already watching our product. So for them, that's a little bit harder for them to sell. So they keep him on undercards. They keep him in fights with guys in the fringe of the top 15. And if you're, a Sean O'Malley or whatever, you need to get 2 or 3 wins and you're shooting up the ranks. It's like if you're a Muslim Salikhov, you need to get 7 wins in a row or whatever it is to get a fight into the top 15. But I also think that you look at some of these past matchups and, I think he kind of got a gift in that Zaleski fight. Zaleski's my boy. And who treated Zaleski like he was no big deal? The Leech. Now, that was a weird fight. It was in China. So it was like a little bit out of the, normal time zone and things like this for Zaleski. But he got tuned up like an old guitar, is the God's honest truth. And the Leech has done that to a few guys, and at a pretty high level. So he's the ranked fighter here. And this is Muslim Salikhov's first time stepping up to ranked competition in the UFC. So I think that that's a factor. I think that, he's not fighting a guy who is, an age contemporary anymore, like he has been in some of these recent fights as well. He's fighting a much younger fighter here. And I think that could pay dividends as well for the Leech. One of the things I liked about the Leech is you look at this guy, he made big adjustments for this camp. He moved from China to the United States. Shah Yalan, everybody was hating on our guy, but we took Shah Yalan bets on this show, and we felt good about the progression he was making. He had moved to the States. He was showing to be in a much better training environment. He was working with guys like the Leech, and I think that overall it paid huge dividends. We saw a completely different guy. He's out there throwing at a much higher volume. He's out there being a lot more aggressive. His grappling looked much more on point. So I think for all those reasons, there's reason for optimism on the Lee side here, shout out to my man Library Leach. I think that Leach is a good fighter, and I think that recency bias is something we always talk about in this mixed martial arts betting game. And he got beat in his last fight, right? And he got beat in embarrassing fashion. So I think that for me, that is the time to buy into somebody, right? Leach basically just made himself, an ultimatum. He's like, I want to get over here. I want to get better. This is my last chance. I'm getting, a little bit older. I got to make a run. I got to do it right now. I got to change my life, whatever it takes. And I think he's all in. I think he's all in on this fight and what it means to him. He looks physically in the best shape of his career. I think he's got the knockout power to potentially hurt Salikhov and get him out of there. I think that if he mixes in the wrestling and the takedowns, Salikhov has shown that he can gas out in these later rounds. He can be walked down at various points. He is not the guy who's going to put his foot down necessarily and find a finish. He will hurt you. He will go for big shots, but he normally doesn't follow up. He does a little bit at a time, tries to chip away. And I think that Leach can fake out some good reactions and hit him with some big shots. So I like the Leach here, and I like some of the advantages we're getting on paper for an underdog. Lou, how do you feel?
Give me that dog money on the Leach. Give me that dog money. He's got the power advantage. He has the reach advantage, and he is been pissed since that last fight. Just imagine, you're talking about all the changes he's made. 100% agree. It's been festering inside of him, what a humiliating loss that was. So not only am I on the Lee side, he will be the first guy to knock out Salikhov at plus 325 odds. I don't know. I'm not playing a round prop here, but I think he's coming out with something to prove. It's a great buy low spot on him too. So give me the Leach for that plus money, man.
I like it. Wiz, do you agree? Do you disagree?
Let's make it unanimous, boys. I'm going to be pretty deep on Leach here. I'm pretty convinced he's the side. He has the advantages everywhere. Let's just put it out there. In my opinion, he has the power advantage. He has the wrestling and grappling advantage too. Even though a lot of people are thinking about that Khamzat fight since it was so recent, and they saw how he just got ragdolled. At the end of the day, we're talking about Khamzat here. It's not no Muslim Salikhov. I haven't really seen too much grappling from Muslim Salikhov either. So give me Leach. I like the power here, and I do agree with Lou. I think he's going to be able to knock him out. I think it goes late though. I think this fight ends in the third round specifically. And I can't really speak too much about this fight other than me being very biased towards Leach. The tape I've done on Muslim Salikhov has not shown me much in terms of improvement fight over fight. In terms of IQ improvement too, is he hasn't had the best IQ at times either, and striking defense is pretty meh. So yeah, I think exactly. Give me
1,400 by the way, Wiz. 1,400
on the third round KO.
Oh yeah, well just round 3. You want the KO?
Yeah.
Let's see, round.
He's make it more specific.
Round 3 KO.
A little more spicy.
Well, what I like. It's going to pay more. It's not that much more. Plus 1,700 on FanDuel for the round.
No, I'd rather not get Q with it.
You're not getting a huge
reason
bump.
to.
No, you're not getting a huge bump there.
Yep. Yeah. So
I appreciate that take. Anything else on this one, gentlemen? Or are we good to move to the co-main event?
We are chilling.
Team Leach, let's go.
I love it. So another unanimous panel pick there. I have a strong feeling we're not going to be unanimous on this one. We've got the co-main event of the evening. We've got Michelle, the karate hottie Waterson. She is taking on a very tough out here in Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos was on a very hot tear through the division. I think it was 4 or 5 fights in a row. Started to stack up wins. Pretty low level, I would argue, in terms of the level of competition there that she was beating, but still got a couple credible wins in a row and brought her to a fight in a main event with Jessica Andrade. And if you guys have been watching the show for a long time, we backed up the dump truck on Andrade in that spot. It was just, it was crazy to me in that spot. I thought Jessica Andrade was a better fighter. I thought that she was a little bit more dangerous, and I thought that ultimately, her ability to mix in her martial arts skills in all positions was going to make the difference. She had been training martial arts her whole life. She really is a dangerous fighter with her hands. She can hurt women to the body. She can hurt them to the head. And I think that as far as I'm concerned, I've liked broadly what I've seen from the Amanda Lemos side on the feet in the early going of a fight. She hits with power. She throws with conviction. She's got some confidence. She'll come forward. But I think that on the other side, Michelle Waterson, she's been fighting much better women, like just straight up a higher level of competition by a big margin. And I think that in this kind of fight, I view Michelle Waterson as a live underdog. And the reason being is because Michelle Waterson has a few things that I want. She understands where her fights are won and lost these days. She's not a very good striker, is the God's honest truth. She came in as the karate hottie, but she's undersized for the 115-pound division. If you listen to her interviews, she always talks about she is looking for, like a atomweight division. She thinks that the UFC would be wise to include it. I think the UFC would be wise to include it, to be honest. But either way, they don't have one. So she has to fight at 115. She said that she basically is giving this one last shot. She feels like her career is on the line in this fight because they've made a big investment in her in terms of the company. The investors, the chief investors of the UFC, like basically bought out her contract and paid her a lot of money when they first signed this deal because she had a win over Paige Van Zandt. It looks like she's trending up in the right direction. And it hasn't quite panned out yet, where she is a little bit older. She's got a little bit more experience now, but it's kind of like S or get off the pot time, right? It's like it's time to move for Michelle Waterson in this division, or it's not, or it's all over, or her career as a fighter is probably done. Because if she's not beating the Lemoses of the world, frankly, women in their mid-30s who are currently outside the top 5, it's like, you got to be able to beat those people if you want to advance at this stage in your career. So they're right around the same age. It's not like this is a massive age gap where we're talking about the young changing of the guard. It's like, no, we've got 2 women that are both in their mid-30s. One is a little bit more athletic. One is a former 135. We're coming down to 115. So all that's relevant. I'm not trying to count that out. But if I was to ask you guys straight up, who would you take in a grappling match, Angela Hill or Michelle Waterson, you would probably take Michelle Waterson. If I was to ask you, like, if you were to take, one person and have them wrestle Amanda Lemos and see who could get more takedowns, do you think it's going to be Angela Hill or Michelle Waterson? It's like, I think it's going to be Michelle Waterson. Who's more likely to attempt takedowns at a high rate? It's, again, Michelle Waterson. So for all those reasons, I think that she could definitely get takedowns in this spot if Lemos gasses out. If Lemos makes a mistake and gives her back again. Lemos hasn't been training fighting all that long. And I think we saw a perfect example of that in her last fight where Jessica Andrade didn't get a takedown. She pushed her up against the fence and locked in a standing arm triangle choke where most people that grapple will tell you it's pretty easy to frame off and defend that before it happens. Okay, I got caught. Like I was in a panic. So now I got to answer the phone. I've got to push away on the hip. I've got to try and push myself off the fence. There was none of that. There's a photograph of her like this. Like she's literally like in this complete state of panic. And I think that Lemos, people are mistaking her grappling upside for the fact that she has real power. She can hurt people and put them down, and she's physical. So if she gets on top of somebody and she locks up a hold of your head, she's very strong. She'll pull it off. Like she is a different level of physicality than many women in the division. But I think that the cardio advantage is real on the Waterson side. I do believe that. I think that Waterson is a pretty durable fighter overall. It's been rare instances where she's been hurt and finished. So I think that Waterson's going to give me an honest chance here. And I did not hate the poke on a plus 1,600 submission prop when the sharp markets are opening it at plus 900, when the fact that this is a girl who just got submitted in the first round in her in her most recent fight, right? And I said the same thing when we were talking about Jessica Rose Clark, and everybody's like, it's a different matchup. No, she gets submitted in the first round in the next fight. It's like, guys, you just can't ignore some of these details. So it's like, yes, I am saying it's less likely than Jessica Andrade, but I thought plus 600 on Jessica Andrade was a busted number. Now you're giving me 1,000 and that. It's like you're asking me to come back to the well and see if we can get lucky again. And the truth is, I think we can. I don't think Amanda Lemos is as good a grappler as Michelle Waterson. I don't think she's been doing it as long. I don't think she's the same lifelong martial artist. But I think that Amanda Lemos has more power. I think she's more physical. I think she's a better athlete. So both these women live to get a finish. Both these women, I think, will have a tougher time winning a clear decision. I think for the reasons that Lemos is a big favorite in round one, in my opinion. She's a fresh fighter. She's very dangerous in that time. She throws big shots. But I think as the fight gets extended, the line on Michelle Waterson will be going down, down, down. If she's able to stay steady Eddie and just stay in the fight at the same pace, doing the same BS spam kicks from the outside and mixing the takedown attempts, I think that if she mixes those takedown attempts in when Lemos is getting tired, she can get those takedown attempts and give herself that chance to finish. And I think that Michelle Waterson, in terms of her physicality, she put herself in the best chance to win. If she can't do it, looking this jacked, putting, probably gang of supplements into her body, take that for whatever it's worth, but looks in the best shape she's ever looked. If all that doesn't work, okay, well then we say thank you very much for your services, Michelle, and we sign her off into the sunset. But I think at this price, at this number, co-main event favorites have been winning at an alarming rate, especially recently. I think eventually we're going to see some shout out to Yanni the Greek regression in this spot where eventually one of these big dogs is going to come through. When you're talking about Shavkat Lakhmanov, make it a minus 400 or it's going to get bombed. But when you're talking about Amanda Lemos, it's like, I don't buy it at this big price. This is being priced like she's fighting Miranda Granger, like she's fighting Conejo. Like I don't buy that. I don't buy that. So I'm willing to take the dog shot here. And that's what I did. Wiz, how do you feel? Oh, sorry, Lou. I pump faked you there, but we're mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, so I echo some of the same feelings here. I do think Lemos has that clear path to victory in that first round with her egregious volume and power advantage. But as the fight goes on, she's going to continue to fade. And we saw that a lot in the Angela Hill fight where she was just fading and fading until that last minute. I don't even know how she won that decision. But I've seen a lot of those Michelle Waterson subs going around on Twitter. Can't say I hate it. Can't say that I see it either, though. I think it's just going to be a greasy fight in general. I think it's going to end in split. So Waterson's probably going to cover that price tag. Man, I don't think Lemos deserves to be a minus 400 favorite against anyone that's in the UFC at this point. Besides a couple of those bottom feeders. So I'm staying away from this fight personally because I have no interest in laying either the chalk side or taking a shot at the dog myself. I'm not too interested in the prop market either because usually on the women MMA fights I look at the totals, but I do see paths for finishes for both fighters. So I'm staying away from that completely. Or else I would have tried the over 2.5. For sure. Now, when you're looking at that last performance from Lemos, it's hard to continue to back her, especially at this price. But I think that was a one-off fluke, in my opinion. This might be a bounce back fight for her. I think the UFC knows what they're doing. On the other hand, Waterson looks like she's very motivated here. So I wouldn't be surprised if she comes out and puts on a half decent or decent performance. Ultimately, I'm staying off.
Just wanted to remind everybody as I kick it to my brother Lou here that when you look at the past pricing, right, the historical pricing, she was a minus 3XX favorite the night that she won a split decision over Angela Hill. Angela Hill lost a split decision to Michelle Waterson. If you don't think that this fight could get greasy, I struggle to believe that you're paying attention. Lou, what do you think, my brother?
Well, I recorded a new prop show today named Props to Consider and Then Maybe Bet, which I debuted on the MMA Engine today. And in that show, I made my logical argument for the Waterson submission at plus 1,600. But plus 1,600 is just kind of fun. It's more fun than plus 1,600, Liam? Plus 5,000 is more fun than plus 1,600. So I took a poke on Waterson round 3 sub. If you're playing into the condition that this is a cardio battle and that Waterson can wear her out, you're giving me 50 to 1 on this prop. And as I like to commonly say, do you know why I like the round 3 prop better than the round 2 prop? Liam, do you know why I say that?
Why is that?
Because it pays more.
There you
So
go.
I like it. Because it pays more. So, and by the way, if Cody Brunge is listening, I'm sick and tired of betting you round 2 and round 3, bro. I'm just taking you round 1 from now on. I told you it pays more. Come on, man. Get me that plus 800 money.
In his next fight, watch him win in round 3.
Well, you guys saw, he literally wrote me and said, sorry for not getting you the sub prop, dude. I'm like, you should be having a beer.
Yeah, what was he thinking, man? The guy was rocked. You got to look for that mounted gilly. Come on.
I'm like, dude, why aren't you having a beer? Like, why are you talking to me? Like, go have a drink, dude. Like, you earned it. So I'm going to play the Waterson round 3. This is my crazy prop of the day. There's no draws on the card I'm betting, so this will have to do. But, I mean, and also this is one of those things where, like, if you hit it, like, you probably just, I mean, is this worth $5 at 50 to 1? I mean, I make $5 is nothing to me. I make that in a week. It's nothing to me, this $5. So I'm throwing it on this prop. It's just a gut feeling, but if it does play in a narrative that Lemos' cardio is not so good and these takedowns start coming easier and easier and easier, who knows, man? This is my I want to be a genius on Twitter for a night play.
Hey, cheers to it, man. I think that it's got some legs.
And we lost Liam.
Well,
the prop was so good it broke Liam's internet.
It broke the internet. That's what it was supposed to happen. But hey, to pour on top of that Waterson side, she does look like she's been drinking some of that secret juice from
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
she looks good, man. She looks jacked. Look, she'll fight for your money too. Like, she totally will fight for your money here. So
100%.
Will Lemos? I don't know. Like, I can't say that, you know, unless she could bonk her early too. I mean, I'm not saying that's not out of the
You
question.
can't write off the early bonk from Lemos in any of her fights because, man, does she have power early on. And that's the one thing that scares me from betting anything in this fight, especially that over, because the over 2.5 is it's gonna make me so bitter. It's gonna make me have to change shirts a couple of times, especially with that bonkability. I'm gonna call
Are we
it
now
a little
doing?
bonkability.
Is this now the Whiz Gets and Lujitsu show? Like, without Liam?
This is the Whiz Gets and the Lujitsu show. Sorry, guys, we transitioned over to this.
So, what do you think we should do? Should we just get to the main event and Liam will come in and be correct like always?
You know what? Yeah, I mean, we could do that. Yeah, since we were at the tail end of the last fight, so I'm pretty sure we could do that.
How about we tell everybody also, if you haven't liked the video already,
you better like this.
Like it. Subscribe to Liam's channel. Dude is awesome. Like, so positive, giving away everything for free, and he puts up with my shit. So he's a pretty good guy to me. I don't know, man. But
cool.
Yeah.
So let's see. We got Brian Ortega against Yair Rodriguez here. The line as it stands, I've been seeing Ortega around -180 to -175, and to come back around +150 to +145 on Yair. To me, in this fight specifically, there's one thing I don't like about the Ortega side, and in my opinion, he's very one-dimensional in the way that he can win this fight, which is going to be the sub. And very rarely do I ever bet a side where I think their only win condition is one thing out of 3, which between the sub, KO, and decision. I don't think he can win a decision because his striking is just god awful, man. I gotta say it, and that also pairs well. He can't win a knockout here. Yair has shown tremendous durability. We've seen it in multiple fights now. And Yair has shown tremendous striking offense. Not talking about defense here. His striking defense is a little suspect. But Yair throws in combos, which is one thing that not a lot of people recognize here. It's when you throw in combos, it kind of deters the offense of the other person just a little bit. It kind of keeps them thinking, and it cuts them off. And I learned this through training over the years, and it's when you're throwing in multi punch combos and kick combos like Yair does, it's gonna throw this person off. Now, do I see a possibility where one of his kicks gets caught and Ortega lands on top and subs him? Yeah, definitely. But do I want to lay chalk on something like that? Probably not. If you want to bet Ortega here, I think the bet here is the Ortega subline. I think specifically probably in round 3 as well, because I think round 1 is probably really where Yair is going to be the most dominant. I think he wins round 1 personally. I think he wins round 2. Round 3 is where it's going to look a little greasy, even though he's shown the cardio ability too. All signs to me are pointing towards betting Yair decision, just for the sheer fact that he's going to be the minute winner. He's going to be the overall round winner too. I don't think there's going to be a specific moment winner here either, just because these guys don't have too much power. And I mean, the big moments are probably going to be if Ortega has him in like a deep choke where Yair finds a way out. But hey, I do rate Yair's scrambles too. He's able to get out of those tricky situations and really find his way out of trouble. So I'm probably going to be on that Yair decision line myself. Lou, what do you think?
I always find it hard. Like, how do you train for Yair Rodriguez? Like, who do you find in the gym that can like accurately simulate him? You brought up a good point. Yo, there he is. What's up?
What's up, lads? You guys are the greatest guests anybody could ask for. My laptop's overheating over here. Shuts down in the middle of the show. My guests keep it rolling right through the main event.
It's because your picks are too hot. Liam, your picks are too hot.
That's the problem, gents. Dropping too much heat on this show.
Well,
where are we? No, please continue.
I was just starting. Wiz broke down Ortega. The Ortega fight. I'm about to start with that on my end. I worry about a week where everybody's steaming the same prop. This Ortega sub. It's just people betting Ortega sub. It's crazy. And can Yair win a decision? Absolutely. Ortega's striking defense is so bad. Like, it's awful. The one thing I want to bring up, we were talking about, is I was fairly impressed with Yair Rodriguez on the ground last time out. Like, he wasn't a fish out of water. He did scramble well. I thought he looked okay. You know, Liam, correct me if I'm wrong with this. I think Prize Picks has, which is the sponsor of the show, by the way, Prize Picks. I believe Prize Picks has their prop for this. The over-under on Ortega takedowns is 1.5. Am I correct?
I think that is the case, yeah.
Okay, so what are they trying to tell you? 1 and it's over? I kind of don't assume that 1 and it's over. And like, you know, Clint brought up a good point earlier in the week. Like, you look at Ortega, does he have a wrestling advantage? He should. Does he proactively use the wrestling? No, he just wants to sit there and get hit. So, you know, look, man, Ortega's been in some wars recently. Like, even Cub Swanson was like cracking him. Like, he's been in wars with guys that, like, you know, Yair Rodriguez, no joke. Like, how many times can your chin just hold up? I mean, I know Holloway got him out of there with volume. Rodriguez can get him out of there with volume and power very early if you wanted to. I'm not going to bet the decision prop like Wiz is, because I don't want to clench my butthole for 25 minutes, hoping he's just piecing him up and not getting, like, you know, I looked at Fight Doesn't
Fazeev decision backers are still in mourning right now.
Right. So, like, I
shambles.
I instinctively like the Fight Doesn't Go, because I think 2 of the 3 like possibilities, you know, it's Yair KO, Yair decision, Ortega sub. But like, just the more the week's gone on, the more I really lean to the Yair Rodriguez side here. And if you want to play a narrative play, he's like the one guy that hasn't gotten his title shot at, you know, like he could be, he says he's going to be next for Volk. Is he a sexier fight to sell than the Emmett fight? Probably. Is it fair? No, but life's not fair. Or I would be like 6'4". Like, it's just not fair. So I could see Rodriguez winning this, and then we got some interesting decisions to make at at 145. The ideal situation would be he wins, Volkanovski gets a title shot at 155, forfeits the 145 title, and Yair and Emmett can fight for the vacant title. That would be like the best. No, you don't like that? What do you like for that?
Absolutely not.
You want Volk to just hold the title?
Volk is my boy.
Well, hey, man, like I don't see anybody beating Volk like ever. Like ever, man. He's so good. But so yeah, I'm leaning on the Yair side here. It's terrifying because he's going to be winning until he isn't, possibly. But I was really impressed with the scrambling last time out. Like, I was really impressed with his get-up game, the way he was just staying out of a lot of trouble. Yeah, I think, and I don't think Ortega's fought somebody with this like absolute array of video game offense. So I'm going to take the dog shot here in the main event.
I love where your head's at, my friend. And I must say, if people listen back to my analysis from the Volkanovski and Holloway fight, I think I got everything right down to the except for the inside the distance, right? And he broke his hand in the first round, so wasn't able to deliver us that one, but really gave us an honest effort despite that. I thought he really put a number on a very talented fighter and a very worthy champion in Max Holloway, but it's not his time. It's Volk's time. He's the best fighter I've seen doing this fighting thing. In terms of his heart, in terms of his toughness, his credibility, his skills in all positions, his ability to adapt in the fight. He's a very, very talented guy. He's very difficult to beat. But if you listen back to that analysis, you'll hear me say, I actually don't think Max has the best chance to beat him right now. I said that. I said I think Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett both actually have a better chance to beat him. And the reason being is simple. They have fight-altering power. And that's something that Max Holloway lacks. He's a very good fighter. He can overwhelm you with pace. He can overwhelm you with pressure. He could just be better than you, right? And just outbox you the whole night, land a ton of volume and really like damage you. He can land big, impactful shots, but he's just not that good at putting somebody away, stepping on their throat with power. That's just not what he does. Breaks you down, chips away. That's not what you see from Yair Rodriguez. He's capable of that, and he showed that in the Max Holloway fight that he could chip away at somebody. And he really did a number on Max, turned him into a wrestler. And I thought that was, horrible for Max's chances against Volk because he took a beating. He had a really tough fight there and had to go through it and face some adversity when he's already been on that, climb up the contenders mountain. So I think for me, when I looked at this fight, I see a lot of people who are convicted on the Ortega side. I get it. I'm a grappler, right? I like guys that shoot for guillotines and triangle chokes. It's like he's a man after my own heart in some ways, but also he's a guy that, I bet him, right? I'm going to just tell you the truth. I bet him Brian Ortega this is against Volkanovski at the plus 150 tag because I was like, man, it's an elite featherweight fight. I'm going to bet a half unit on this. I'm going to bet a half unit on him to win by sub and inside the distance. And I came away from it saying, wow, I can never bet against Volkanovski again until I see the prodigy at featherweight that I just know is going to beat him. Cause I'm normally pretty good at trying to pick up on those things, like who's got next. But I think that, this guy Volkanovski is really going to make it tough for these guys. But what you need to beat him is shocking dynamic power. You need to surprise him. You need to hit him with something he's not expecting. And Yair Rodriguez is the king of the unexpected. He's doing crazy shit. He's throwing crazy kicks. He's jumping in the air. He's flying through the air. And I think that could be his downfall here, right? It could lead to his demise, but it also is what brings him into this fight with huge upside because we haven't seen this kind of threat against Brian Ortega. Who's the guy who's a real dynamic finisher that Brian Ortega's fought recently? Not a ton of guys, even Volkanovski, whom I love and respect. He's not the guy who's going to put you away every fight. He'll do a beat down on you and leave you in there for the whole 5 rounds. We saw that. He almost left, Korean Zombie in there too long. He's like, hey, are you all right? Like he's just a bro of all bros. He'll put a whooping on you, but he gives you that chance. He'll talk you through the beat down. This is not the same kind of guy, Yair Rodriguez. He's an emotional fighter in some ways. He'll get angry in the course of a fight. I feel like it's part of his spirit. And these guys are friendly. But he said, I've trained with this guy. I like him. I respect him. We're friendly. We'll be friends again after. But I expect to finish him. I think that he is aware of the fact that he can hurt Brian Ortega. He can get after him with big shots. and make him second guess coming forward and ducking into level changes and things like that. It's not so easy, especially if you're not comfortable with it, if it's not your A game. And Brian Ortega is a guard grappler. He's a guy who prefers to be on his back. Yes, he can get a snatch submission from the feet, but guys, how many of those guys were shorter than him? How many of those guys were front headlockable? This guy, Yair Rodriguez, he's not a bad grappler. He's not like just a complete cell job grappler. Frankie Edgar is a primary wrestler with a really low center of gravity. Different story. Frankie Edgar got punished for that against Brian Ortega, who whipped him with uppercuts, right? Because he's got length. He's not going to have that huge length advantage here. He's going to be against a guy who can match him in terms of size parity, who's got a dangerous submission game of his own right that shouldn't be discounted or slept on or forgotten in this fight. Just because Brian Ortega is very good at jiu-jitsu doesn't mean if he gets hurt, he's not going to make a mistake. Anybody is capable of it. So if he gets hurt and goes for a shot because he wants to get back in control of the fight and Yair, snaps something on him, all I'm saying is just don't be stunned and surprised, because that is a possible outcome here. I think that overall, I would favor a money line play on the underdog here to a money line play on the favorite. I understand people that got in on the early sub lines. I think now the sub line has been nerfed, where it's really not an appealing line. I think if anything, you'd want to target Ortega ITD. Am I wrong? Like, why would you give yourself that limited win equity when we've seen Yair Rodriguez has never been submitted in professional MMA, but he has been stopped due to strikes. So, just by the odds alone, by using the past to predict the future, yes, Brian Ortega is probably the best submission threat he's faced, but he's not a completely unique submission threat in the sense that, Max Holloway is a talented grappler. He's got some real submissions on his resume in the UFC. Wasn't able to submit him, had some top time, had some control positions, wasn't able to get off in an aggressive way there. So I think that it's a very live spot for the underdog, and I think that it should be a hellacious battle. And I've talked about it before. When you're giving me elite featherweight matchups, I'm almost always going to be looking towards that underdog side preferentially. The difference with the Volk side is just that I think he's the best fighter in the game, so I'm not going to be betting against him, period. I don't think that's good for my bank account, but I think that in terms of like these guys at featherweight from 2 to 12, like they're savages. Like if you get one of these guys at plus money against the other one, and there's anything else you like about them from a matchup perspective, I think you have to fire. And I don't like how much damage Ortega's taken. He's taken some time off now. I'm not sure how that's going to fare for him. Maybe it turns out well. Maybe it turns out he's a little bit rusty. He starts a little slow. He gets walloped in the first round. Yair is a guy that tends to start his fights very fast, comes across the octagon, and he's throwing. And maybe against a friend, we don't see that quite as much. But if I know Yair Rodriguez like I think I do, he ain't friends with you when you're fighting anymore. Like he's in the game, he's in the fight, and then afterwards it's all respect and love again. But it's going to be an intense fight, I think. Two Mexican warriors. I think they're going to swing to a finish. And I think if that's the case, it does favor Yair Rodriguez to some extent. So I like to see, a stand-up war here. I'd like to see them go to Long Island and really put on a show for the fans. Don't think I'm going to be able to make it in attendance myself, but shout out my man Lou. Hopefully he's able to make it. And shout out to my man Wiz. Shout out to all the people still rocking with us live in the chat. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. I am now going to grab my laptop back from outside, but as I go do that, I'm going to kick it to my brother Wiz and ask him, Wiz, where can the people find you and all the great work you've been doing on these Nerfies? I called you the king of Nerfies because you've been absolutely slaying it with these on the free plays on Twitter. And guys, if you're not already following, it's a simple calculation. Go follow at WizBets. Your bank account will thank you. Wiz, how you feeling, my brother? Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so thanks for again. You always do the best job with these outros, with these intros. A solid job always. So I can't thank you enough for having me. You can find me on Twitter at WizBets. I actually just started up a YouTube channel too, also WizBets, where I posted my first video. It's an interview with the infamous Askar Mozharov. I know we just got some news about him today too, so makes it a little bit more juicy here in his take. And it's a pretty long and in-depth interview. I think we went around 34 minutes long in that one. So info packed, info jammed in that interview. And to be honest, when I tell you it was 34 minutes, I think it was 4 minutes of me speaking and 30 of him speaking, because he did my job. He answered all the questions that I had without me even asking him. So Props to him. But yeah, guys, I mean, thanks again for always watching. Hey, now there's one man standing.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm back.
Oh, I
Bear
got
with me, folks. We just hit the world's quickest transition of all time. Plugging back in everything. We already had one overheat. Can we survive the outro?
I'm sure we can.
Okay.
But no, I was just shouting out the chat.
Am I live? Are we talking? Are we here?
You are speaking, my brother. You're speaking.
That we are. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Wiz, say something, brother. Tell me I'm back.
Hey, you're back. You're back.
Oh my gosh. Brutalize me. Brutalize me. Let's go. We're back. We're back. Chat, we're back. Got it back in the house. And the GOAT is back.
I lost the internet. Did you guys? Were you guys down too?
I'll tell you what. My internet has held up, but my laptop was down for the count for a second. We made it back, and truly got to turn that air conditioning up a little bit more. I got these bright ass lights. I think that might have done the trick. But either way, wanted to give my man Lou a chance to tell the people all the great work you're doing at MMA Engine and where they could find you, my brother.
Lou Betcha on Twitter. MMA Engine, final bug testing for the Fight Studio should be out next week. Very excited about that. I'll make a video, show you guys all the cool, fun stuff. But just to give you guys an idea, the Fight Studio is a cool way. Instead of using Tapology for your background, it's like Adobe on steroids with all of the stats that we have. Uncle Easy has done an amazing job of compiling all the stats, and we maintain it ourselves. So the Fight Studio will be completely free to any content creators also. So we'll control the ad space. That's how we'll make money on it. But it's a business. But it's going to be free for content creators. We hope you guys give it a chance. And I'm accessible. So if you have ideas for it and you want to use it, just tell me, because I'm literally the programmer and I'm the engineer. So just tell me and we can add cool stuff to it to constantly make it better for people to use. So that's all I got on my end. I'm looking forward to this weekend. If I go, I'll let you guys know.
I love it. I love it. And guys, make sure you're checking that out. MMA Engine. I know I'm going to be checking it out as soon as it drops. I was in contact with my man as it was in development. So very happy to see that is finally coming to fruition. I know he's put a lot of hard work, time, effort, and energy in. So I'm going to be checking that out and supporting. I hope you guys all make the choice to do the same. And as for me, guys, my name's Lim, and I pick fights. I do it every week here on YouTube. You can find me at this same channel. So go ahead and get subscribed. If you never want to miss a week, go ahead and turn on those bell notifications because I'm a little bit sporadic sometimes with these videos. But we've been trying to go consistently Thursday at midnight Eastern. We've been doing a good job on these streams. Been crushing it the last couple ones in a row, guys. Going to be honest. I've been giving out a lot of winning plays on this show. So if you have gotten value from it, please go ahead and share this show with others. Go ahead and tell other people where they can find it. Share this show on social media. It really means a lot to me when you do. I appreciate the support. And I know that there's a lot of shows out there. There's a lot of great content, a lot of very smart people that do this. So it truly means a lot when you guys come and support me on a weekly basis because I put a lot of time, effort, and energy in. But I also know that we've got the sharpest chat in the game. We got a lot of really smart people that come back here every week and discuss these fights. And I always leave the show in a better position to bet my money. And I hope that you guys feel the same way. So God bless each and every one of you guys. I hope that you enjoy the fights. If you're going to be live in attendance in Long Island, I hope you guys have a heck of a night. You turn up for the fighters. You really let it go, yell out, especially for our man, Shane Burgos, because Section 9 is in the building and we're here to represent. Hashtag no quit in New York. It's a Shane Burgos season as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just excited, man. Big opportunity for him, big opportunity for these New York guys. And I'm just saying, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you sleep on them New York boys, they're going to teach you how to wrestle once again. And Patchy Mix did it for us. Aljamain Sterling did it for us. I'm hoping very much so that Section 9 shall rise and Shane Burgos will do it for us once again this weekend. But guys, 2 hours, we've done it. We broke down the whole card, top to bottom, every sharp angle we could think of, a lot of sharp angles in the chat. God bless you all. We'll do it all again next week. Come back. We're going to have all the same fun then. Thanks, guys. See you then. Have a good time in Long Island. Be well.